Hello everyone and welcome to this video on this course of getting started with Angular. So far we have learned a great deal of concepts. We have learned about property binding. We have learned about event binding. We have also learned about how to create components manually and automatically using Angular CLI, and we have implemented those concepts in a course project which we will keep on continue to work on as we progress through this course. So as we learn newer and newer concepts, we will implement those concepts in the course project just to get a basic, better understanding of Angular. And yeah, so we now have developed a basic and thorough understanding of the Angular framework. So far, we have learned that inside of a component, the HTML file and the TypeScript file can communicate between each other. The HTML file can send data to the TypeScript file using something called event binding, and the TypeScript file can send data back to the HTML files using something called property binding. And obviously there is two-way data binding as well. But it's also possible for two components to communicate between one another. So I can actually have one component send data to another component and have that data rendered in that component, and vice versa as well. So this is something that we will be learning thoroughly in the upcoming videos, which is custom property binding. So I obviously have the project up and running. This is the dummy project which we were working on, and I will possibly zoom in so you guys can have a better view. So whenever we click on the add customer button, as you guys can see, I have Mohit 0, Mohit 1, Mohit 2, all of this information which is rendering. Now, if I go back to the types to VS Code over here, and if I go to my customer.component.html, how that is happening is that I have a button element defined over here. Just zoom in a bit. I have a button element defined over here, which has a click event listener. So whenever I click on this button, this add new customer gets called. And this add new customer function is doing nothing but pushing an object. And this object contains two keys. One is the name and the other one is the age. And it's pushing this object into the customer array. And then in the customer.component.html, inside of this paragraph tag, I am looping over this customer array and then outputting the information of that object using property binding, which is name. Obviously, I'm not outputting the age, but I'm just outputting the index over here. So all of this is happening inside of one component, right? But better practice or better way of implementing is this to split this particular functionality across two components. So the thing is that at the end of the day, this item, let's just name it customer, because this is a customer object, and I'll just name it customer.name. At the end of the day, this customer object is one single customer, right? Obviously, this customer right now has only one name, which is Mohit, but that is something that is subject to change. It would be better if I can possibly, not have all of this functionality in one function. And how I can do that is that I have my app-customer or the app, the customer component implemented over here. What if I use the ng-for on this app-customer component? Let me just copy, let me paste this over here, and I will comment this out for now. And if I save this and go back to my application, whenever I click on add customer, app-customer, that component is rendered and it's showing welcome to the customer page. If I go to my customer.component.html, I do see the welcome to the, and title is obviously implemented using string interpolation. So the title is customer page. So yeah, I am looping over the app-customer, the customer array, and outputting the app-customer for as many times as I want, and the output is welcome to the title. But the thing is that it would be better, because at the end of the day, this customer object over here, which is a part of customer array, this contains information. This contains a name and an age. I want to output this. Previously, we were doing this all in one component, but now we would like to have this implemented in another component. So how I can go about passing that information of the customer to my app-customer is, I will go to my customer.component.ts and I will define a variable, and I'll call it customer. So I have defined a variable inside of my customer.component.ts. If I go back to my customers.component.html over here, I can use property binding to pass data from customers to app-customer. Sorry, I'm using the word customer a lot, but please bear with me. And using property binding, what I'll tell Angular is that I want to bind to the customer variable inside of app-customer, and it should be equal to this customer, which is a part of the ng4. Now, if I click on save and I go back to my application, it breaks, and it rightfully breaks because it's saying that, well, it can't bind to this particular property. And the thing is that if we are going to send data from one particular component to the other one, we have to use input output event listeners. This is the new concept which I'm getting across. So if I go back to customer.component.ts, this variable is coming from another component. So if I want to listen to this particular element or listen to changes, I need to use the input decorator like this. And the input decorator can be imported from Angular core. Now, if I click on save and I go back, my application is back and running. Now, this customer object is coming from the customers.component.html. And if I go into my single customer.component.html file, if I do something like this, customer.name and customer, sorry, I have to use string interpolation, customer.age. So if I do this and I go back to my application, so you see, now what is happening is that instead of outputting everything in one single component, we are looping over the app-customer, but we are passing data through custom event binding using the input event listener. We are passing that data to the app-customer component over here. And then inside the app-customer component, we have the input event listener, which listens to that change, which listens to that input, which is coming in from the parent component or some other component. And then we output that particular element's information inside of this customer.component.html. So in a nutshell, to sum it up, instead of having everything inside of one component, we can split our application across multiple components, and we can have cross component communication take place using the input output event listeners. We have looked at the input event listener, but we will be looking at the output one as well. So yeah, this was a basic level introduction to the input event listener, which can be used to send data from one customer to another. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please feel free to give this video a like, share it with your friends and family, for that helps me out a lot. And until we meet in the next video, this is Mohit Lodhi signing off.